have to share, stop sharing, and go back and forth with documents. But we'll get there. Let me share.
Okay, so it is Monday, December the 3rd, 2024, 5:41. I am calling the meeting to order. Can we have a pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Mr. Chavez, please.
Chair Roque Vela Jr.
Present.
Secretary Arturo Dominguez.
Present.
Vice Chair Juan Narvaez.
Present.
Mr. Gerald Schrebel.
Present.
Mr. Gerardo Jerry Maldonado.
Present.
Ms. Mayra Hernandez is not present. And Mr. Bill Young is not present. But Chairman, you do have a quorum with the people here present and the ones joining us virtually.
Excellent.
Do we need a motion to excuse those two members?
There's a motion, there's a second. There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Can I entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting on November 19th?
Motion to approve, Dominguez.
Second.
The motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. Moving on, sorry, citizen comments. Is there anyone to speak?
Not present, no one.
Nobody signed up, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez. So moving on to item number 6, discussion with possible action to add $30 million to this year's bond for street paving, pending approval from the Public Infrastructure Subcommittee and any other matters there too. So, so what happened, commissioners, at the large committee meeting, what we had, first, let me say that there is a total of, I believe, $600 million right now pending. It might be more, pending that the committee has passed, which I have voiced my opinion that this is way too much money for us to be putting on the ballot. And I don't like the idea of us, just saying, well, let the people kind of sift through that. I don't like taking that approach. I think we should take the approach where it's something that makes sense, that everybody is comfortable with, and that's not going to have a large impact on the people that pay taxes here in the city of Laredo. And so upon them, us explaining, or me explaining that this committee did not move anything forward or suggest any monies to be added to this bond sale for public infrastructure, and explain why we all felt that way. And I felt that way going into this from the very beginning, but I think we can all agree that I never pushed any of that on any of us. We just all were of the same mindset, I think. And that's what came out of this committee. We did get the other items that we had passed and we spoke about in this committee. And the last item that we spoke about, and that did pass the committee, was the item to add 5% of all property tax collected and put that towards street paving. And they asked if we added $30 million in this bond referendum for street paving. And I said I would agree to that, but I wasn't going to do it without the approval of this subcommittee. So that's where we're at. That's the ask that staff and the committee, for that matter, has asked for. And I bring that to you guys. I just, again, they were under the, I felt like this was something that I was my agenda, if you will. And as we all know, everybody, like I said earlier, there's some very well respected, or this entire committee is very well respected, and you guys know what we're doing and what you're doing and why we did what we did. So I wanted to bring this back to you and come back with whatever it is that we all agree on to this larger committee.
Motion.
Are you introducing a motion?
Of the motion to approve what is brought to our table.
So you want to add the $30 million of street paving to this year's bond election? or next year's bond amendment.
Well, I want a discussion and then we'll take vote.
Well, is there a second?
Second for discussion.
There's a motion and a second for discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Jerry Schwebel.
Mr. Schwab, please go ahead.
Did they explain to you why the additional $30 million on top of what, are we saying that our recommendation of the 5% of the ad valorem tax to be designated, whatever that amount is, they're asking for an additional $30 million on top of that?
Yes, sir. And it's a one-time, it's not $30 million a year. It's just $30 million. And yes, that's
Do we,
exactly.
do we know what, can staff tell us what the 5% would mean? What does it represent?
Mr. Chavez, can you come up with the more, it's gonna be about 5 million. It could be 5.2 million, but it should be around $5 million. What was the amount of property taxes collected last year, Mr. Chavez?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Ramon Chavez, City Engineer. I don't have the exact amount, but from previous conversations, I understand it's close to 5 million. The other thing I do want to mention for the record, we do have a very brief presentation in case you all want to look at how $6 million could be stretched annually over the next 5 years, if interested.
Mr. Chairman, may I say something?
Yes, Mr. Narvaez, please.
You mentioned to me that on last meeting, that when you mentioned the 5% on the property tax for paving and resurfacing or whatever it would take, that who make the recommendation that needed to be sent to the voters because the council could not take that action? Was it that was supposed to send to the voters together with the May referendum? Is that correct?
Yeah, so it's the I'm glad you brought that up, Commissioner. It was the opinion, and he is correct. The opinion of City Attorney Zone that item, that change to the charter cannot be put on this attached with this bond referendum because it just the amendments to the charter just went through in November. So we're gonna have to wait. I believe it's 2 years. But again, the motion still passed that the next time we can legally make any changes to our charter, it will be under, assuming City Council approves it.
Also remember well, Mr. Chairman, that I did ask Esparza at the last meeting. That
Once
was
again, just Jerry Schwebel. So I guess my question, if I could, Mr. Chairman, is the 30 million is the amount that we allocated because the 5% will not be able to be part of the referendum?
No, sir, that wasn't their rationale. Frankly, they just want to have $30 million. The rationale, I mean, look, right now, Public Works, I believe, is getting $5 million a year from the bridge. Is that correct, Mr. Chavez? Hello?
no, okay, they're looking for the answer.
Commissioner John Orfila. Yes, the last I heard was from Bridge, but, from the bridge, yes.
Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Narvaez.
remember when I asked Mr. Esparza at the previous meeting that when they're working the budget every year, did they allocate money from the budget for paving? And I believe Mr. Esparza mentioned that it was like 3 or 5, maybe $5 million that was put aside of the budget for that particular, for paving and street, for paving or resurfacing. And that's why I can understand why are we asking the taxpayers for $30 million when during the budget hearings, according to Esparza, they set monies aside for that particular reason. And if 5 million is what 5% is the number that we're looking at, I think Esparza has put that number as part of the budget every year.
I agree. Again, this is, we were very clear on what we were comfortable with and what we would like to have seen from staff and City Council, and you know, this was what they came back with.
Also, on the small, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, on this presentation that Mr. Shah wants to present to us, I believe there's monies for the industrial parks, and I believe last time, one of the commission made a motion, or excuse me, comments, that how come we don't raise revenues to address the industrial parks instead of taxpayers' monies?
Again, I agree. I am perfectly okay with going back with the same exact recommendation that we had the first time. I did not want to be speaking on behalf of the subcommittee, but it's up to the majority of this committee to decide what it is that what we go back with.
Mr. Chairman, this is Jerry Schwebel again.
Mr. Schwabel?
Again, I think the message that some of us, through you, we tried to express is that, just agreeing to a sum recommended is not going to suffice, okay? Without understanding clearly that we don't have specific designation of a funding source for street paving. It sounds to me that they're just saying, look, I want the $30 million and committee agree to it or not agree to it, and because we cannot, as you explained, cannot go back and get what was our recommendation of the 5% of ad valorem taxes. So if that is the case, then quite frankly, I'm not in favor of just throwing the money out there, $30 million, without really understanding clearly that the willingness of the council to.
Mr. Chairman, and I agree with Mr. Schwebel because they're not giving specifics where those $30 million are going to be applied to, what part of the city. It's going to be just for the mayor thoroughfares, and that's most of the damage are being conducted by 18-wheelers, heavy commercial trucks. So again, this is something that we need to be more specific, how we're going to invest this money, so where they're going to be invested.
Yeah, I'm also, concerned about just looking at other sources like the bridge, to be used at their will. I mean, it's just it just doesn't, to me, it's sound management of resources.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, Ramon Chavez, City Engineer. So the numbers that we prepared as part of the brief presentation were only for the committee to see an overview of how those monies could be stretched. Again, the most part of about 80% of our streets are residential. And so again, the only reason we put some of those figures together is just so that the subcommittee could get a perspective of the numbers. That was it. But that didn't mean that we were technically going to apply them on thoroughfares or industrial parks, which may make sense. But again, it will depend once all that information is reviewed and analyzed.
So you have a presentation for us, a plan of action, if you will.
I do. I'm sorry?
A plan of action with
Yes,
how this $30 million would be applied.
And all we did is we just split it, $3 million for residential, and the other $3 million for non-residential. And we could show you that very briefly.
Please proceed.
Thank you.
Can I say something right away while they do the presentation?
Of course, Commissioner Dominguez.
The only thing that I'm concerned is most of the money that is given by the MPO or the RMA, everything goes to industrial, to infrastructure. And really, I don't like that a lot of that money doesn't go to the city, the streets, the actual city. When it comes to that, it's only just to maintain what we need, and that's my point of view. I just want to make that comment.
You're talking about most of the money from the RMA and the MPO, or most of this money?
And TxDOT and all of that, those monies that come from the state just go to the to the infrastructure that we lack and is way behind, when we can't use none of those monies like for residential and stuff like that. That's just my point of view. Adelante, adelante.
Okay, thank you. So this is a brief overview of our city as it relates to the number of miles that consist for our payment management. So we have approximately 856 miles. I know we've always talked about having close to 900, so that's where this number comes from. Out of that, 85.9% is residential roads, or 735 miles. 109 or 12.7% are major and minor arterials, and 1.4% is industrial collectors. From there, we do have a study that was performed 5 years ago where our streets came back with classifications under the payment index condition, which allows us to understand the exact condition of our streets, and that's where those numbers come from and those scores. So scores of 86 to 100 were 39%, satisfactory, fair, poor, and serious. And so all those percentages we utilize when we see our infrastructure as it relates to payment. And again, the Public Works, and I will speak for John directly, but Public Works is able to stretch out the 4 or 5 million that they receive, or that they have received over the last couple of years, to be able to resurface approximately close to 450 to 500 blocks of streets. So currently we have approximately more than 11,000 blocks of streets within our city. If we look at cost in 2024, we do have three categories. We have preservation, we have resurfacing, and we have reconstruction. So preservation is a micro seal that is applied on streets to be able to stretch the lifetime between 2 to 5 years. And that is an efficient way of preserving your streets at a low cost, low maintenance. And that's why you see the $4,000 figure there that it costs for one block, one residential block, okay? When you start talking about resurfacing, which is milling and overlaying, we mill 1.5 inches to 2 inches of asphalt, and then we overlay it with new asphalt. That's what resurfacing cost is for one residential block. And then reconstruction, where you would have to reconstruct entirely from digging out the base, hauling off that material, and bringing in new material for reconstruction of a street, including curb and gutter, valley gutters, and intersections. So that's where the $71,000 come from for a residential block. After that, all we did is just we inflated the cost 5%, so that you could see some figures what it could possibly cost over the next 5 years, all the way to 2029, including the total number of residential blocks that we could expect in the future. And this is for residential streets. As we move into arterials and industrial streets or industrial collectors, our costs, of course, are higher. Okay, when we're talking about preservation, we're talking about over close to $11,000 per block, $64,000 or $63,000 plus for resurfacing and reconstruction in the amount of $217,000 approximately. Those are our estimates. And you can see the number of arterials and industrial collectors that we have if you're to divide them by blocks throughout the city. So then after that, to see a quick overview of this and how these monies could be stretched, the exercise that we performed was basically, we just said, and this could go in any other way once we see and we feel where the money should be placed, then we will do those assessments, okay? But just for purposes of this presentation, we said, let's put $3 million on residential streets, and we'll put $3 million on non-residential streets. And what do we get? So these are the numbers based on the cost that we presented earlier that we could get to. In preservation, we would get 231 blocks. we would be able to resurface 48 and reconstruct 14 for a total of 293. And those are today's dollars. We met with a couple of contractors that have done work within the state with these types of maintenance in other cities. As we move on into arterials and industrial collectors, these are wider. Some have thicker bases. Some also have more traffic. And so that's why these costs go up. And that, of course, is going to bring down our numbers when it talks about preservation, resurfacing, and reconstruction. So in today's dollars, $3 million would be able to stretch us a total of 112 blocks in applying some of these methods. And again, all we did is with inflation, we estimated those costs all the way through 2029. But again, these monies, once, if approved, or just wanted to show the committee what $6 million could do for our city.
And that will be per year, Mr. Chavez?
Yes, every one of these figures would be per year. That's why we did it this way.
We divided 30, but
Yeah, we divided the 30 million, if you wanna say that, into 6 million a year for the next 5 years. And that is our presentation, just for the subcommittee.
Are there any other questions or comments?
This is Jerry Schroll. I have a question. So how much have you been, what have you spent the last 5 years?
John, you wanna speak to that? I'll have John Rafila speak to that, because he's the one that applies these monies with our coordination.
again, members of the commission, John Rafila for the record. The last 3 years we've been paving. Again, the paving stopped when Carlos Villarreal and that team left. Stopped, and was not till cuando entró council member District 6, Marte Martinez, he brought it back in 2022, 21, somewhere around there. And that's where we got the first several millions, 5 million, and we started the paving crew again. So we stopped paving from 2014, 15 up to 2020, 21, 22, 22. So we're 21. We're a little behind. And that's why a lot of streets were getting bad, but we're up to, again, with the money that we've gotten, we're able to get the city back to where all the major arterials are in better shape, and residential.
So am I to understand that you have not received any funding on a yearly basis for residential paving?
That is correct.
So where is that? So again, to the point that we've been making as a committee, until we allocate a specific funding source, you're going to be at the whim of whatever city council, city manager, or city council
That's correct.
does in regards to street paving. That doesn't make any sense, But I mean, so you're telling me now, because now you have to catch up. You got to go to the taxpayers to catch up on what hasn't been done in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, whatever it is, and you have to get more money because whatever monies were used before were not used, and now you want to ask more money of the taxpayers, $2 to $30 million just to do what you're should have been doing the last 5 years, 3 years.
It's like what this committee's trying to do again is to push it through the city charter to where now the members of the council or the upper management won't have a choice but to give public works monies to resurface, to have a program throughout the year. Am I correct?
Yeah, because there's nothing that says that even if you get the $30 million today, I guess based on what I've been hearing right now, and I have no reason to doubt what you're saying, is that, even if we approve the $30 million for next year, and the voters voted for it, and the voters got $30 million, until we change the process, they could say, hey, we're not going to use the $30 million for those residential and industrial paving programs. Correct?
Correct. And that's my my biggest concern is the total amount that we're at right now. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chavez, but I believe it's like $630 million that we're at right now, that the committee, the main committee, if you will, is at right now. Is that sound about right?
Police
Do
and
you
fire alone, I
have the
believe it's
number?
about 300.
No. It's not 300. Just in public safety alone, it's at over 300.
326, 356, something like that.
No, that's not accurate.
Yeah.
The total number is at what? Mr. Chavez?
Yeah, no, I'm not exactly sure what that total number is at right now, not with all the committees.
Okay, so then we're going with my number. It's at $630 million right now.
Crazy.
Mr. Chairman, one advice. I believe that police department was asking for 250, and I think they settled for a little under 190. But I believe
I
you're
believe
right.
it was 90 actually. So that just in public safety alone, we're at almost $400 million.
Most probably.
And then you still have, they added another, I don't even remember the numbers because frankly, I just stopped adding because I thought it was getting a little preposterous. We're at about $630 million. Let's assume we add this. We're at $660 million. And for every penny, you get $40 million. So we're looking at 400, we're looking at a 15-cent increase right now.
Members of the commission, I just got heard the funding for this fiscal year came from CIF. The one from last year came out from bonds.
CIF?
Yep, capital improvement fund.
Okay, but where did that money come from? That's not a revenue stream. CIF isn't a revenue stream. That's just where you put money.
Well, that's where it came from.
Okay, but where did the money come from?
It's bond money. It's bond money, from what I understand, the capital improvement fund from.
So
from
it's still
capital
bond money.
improvements, yes. So it's bond money, yeah, yes.
That came from the.
And it was
finance director.
5 million that came through that fund.
That was from the finance director.
Yes.
So let's just say we recommend this $30 million. There's nothing keeping them selling more bonds, so putting more money in there. There's nothing keeping them from taking bridge money and putting it in there for street paving, and or freeing up money from bridge revenue to put into, God knows what else. And also, by the way, just because there's not a charter revision yet to taking the 5% and dedicating towards street paving, there's nothing stopping them from doing it right now. Like they can just apply that right now and start practicing that train of thought.
And can we send that recommendation?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, that 5% they're talking about, can that be done as an executive decision through council, directing city manager?
Yes.
Okay.
There's nothing stopping city council saying, you know what, this is what I think. I think we need to turn a new leaf and start running our cities a little bit more fiscally responsible. And I think this is what we want you to do as it pertains to street paving.
In other words, can we vote to recommend to get 5%? I mean, nothing to do with the charter, just that's our recommendation as the subcommittee.
Yes, we could do that. Whether or not they listen is a different set of circumstances. But yes, there's nothing stopping us from doing that. And we're still at where they want. See, let's just say we do the $30 million. They have $6 million over 5 years, right? To apply to street paving, whether it's industrial parks 3 and 3 or whatever it is they decide to do. If we send a recommendation of $5 million that we're taking from property taxes collected, then they're still at where they're at. We don't have that extra loan payment on $30 million. And yes, they're going to have to tighten their belt a little bit. But that's where we're at as a community and as a country right now. I mean, things are not where we'd like them to be. That's not to say that things won't get better, but that's not to say things won't stay the same.
What would happen, this year, Sean, what would happen if we were to look at, based on there hasn't been any much paving going on, or resurfacing, or repairs, whatever you want to call it. Instead of doing the $30 million, I give you I'll give you 2 years worth of $1 million, and show me that you council are willing to identify, dedicate sources of funds until the next charter revision committee meeting or review for any future earmarks or designation. I mean, they got to show something, in my opinion. I think the council needs to show their willingness to change, because it's very difficult for me to go in there and just say, approve $30 million when things are not going to change, yeah. And so I may be willing to consider, a smaller amount for 2 years until we show that there's, with the recommendation that you dedicate ad valorem taxes. You don't have to go, even if you don't have it specifically by charter, but show in good faith that you're designating that money to the budget for the next 5 years, okay? Or until the specific allocation, targeted allocation is achieved. I don't know if I explained myself correctly, but, I see a need from Mr. Orfila saying that I haven't paid any, I have limited paving budget for the last number of years. We need more money to pay for the next number of years. I think I understand where I can hear where he's coming from, and we haven't had anything allocated. But I'm not willing to turn around and just give him $30 million just like that, in my opinion. This is a vote.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
It's a difficult scenario to wrap your mind around. And what was just as concerning, obviously this council and clearly we have I think one new council member. I think everybody else won re-election. So we have one new council member, but this council, and it's not just this council, it's been councils over the past, 8 years that just have gone in the wrong direction. And just as concerning was the amount of people in the other subcommittees, just regular Laredoans, that were just pushing forward, let's put this on there, let's put this on there, let's put this on. And I tried to get them to understand, like, we need to put things on, like, everybody wants certain items, Do we really need it? Like, this is what this bond election is about. Like, what do we actually need? And we're at a committee, we as a subcommittee understand that we need infrastructure. We understand that, but we also understand that there needs to be a change of behavior. And it would really go a long ways for assuming this goes where I think it's going to go, that you guys show up to that larger committee, and even though I'm carrying this message, but to have some other people in the audience sending that same message, singing that same tune, because I mean, when you talk about there was hundreds of millions flying around in that room, literally hundreds of millions. We're just, let's throw it out there, let's see what happens. And it's like I told some of them, they're like, well, it's not all going to pass anyway. But what if it does? What if it does pass? And everybody in that room could agree that what would it be? 15 cents would be a 30% increase in rate in taxes. They could all agree that that's too much. Well, if you can agree that it's too much, then why are we considering putting this much on the ballot?
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes, Commissioner Rice.
Yes, on this $30 million recommendation, we also have to remember that before you can even resurface or repave a street, we gotta also address the infrastructure of the water and sewer. So if we're gonna be throwing $30 million and then one of those streets busted, now we put $3 million in a street or that needed to be replaced, the water and the sewer. So I believe that before even start paving or resurfacing any streets, we need to consider what Mr. Chavez said, that the minimum, the lining, or what do you call it, Mr. Chavez?
The resurfacing or the?
No, the lining.
Pavement, the slurry seal, pavement preservation.
Because at least that's an investment that if we have to break a street, it's not gonna cost us $3 million a block or whatever it is. So even if the $30 million will go through, how soon are we gonna replace the lines that are underneath those streets?
Yeah, that's a good point, Commissioner. I mean, it's kind of pointless for us to be replacing or redoing our streets when we're more than likely. I mean, I was out of water here in the middle of Christmas break. Claymore didn't have water for 5 hours because there was a main break. I have a building full of people and we couldn't flush our toilets. You know, so the point is, why are we going to be replacing our streets when we can't trust our water infrastructure, and we will at some point in time have to tear up that street that we just replaced. That's a very valid point.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chair, having heard what you just said, and I think it's all very valid points, then I think we should go back to the original point, is that I'm not prepared to cast a vote in support of an additional $30 million, you know, until we see a change in the way that the funding for street infrastructure is demonstrated, that there's other sources within the budget.
Member of the Commission, John Rafita again. Just to give you my point of view real quick, not trying to change your mind, but like you said earlier, we've gone through every different commissions, city managers, people, the way they think and whatnot. And the ones that pay at the end are the taxpayers. In the sense that, again, we should have continued to have the aggressive infrastructure replacement of water and sewer like we did back in the day. But at this time, replace or not replace. There's some streets that were in dire need. I've already done those. I've done a lot of them. But we can't continue to fall behind because once we lose the streets, again, fire still has to go through them, police, and us. And our vehicles will take a beating too. With industrial parts, same thing. I've been able to maintain them with no monies, with the monies that I get. And Arturo can attest, they're not in the best shape, but they're very drivable. That's all.
I think, Mr. Rafita, we're not telling you you're not going to get any more money. We're just telling,
right.
We're just saying that the money that you're getting obviously has not been coming to you as what you needed, because they've been routing those funds for somewhere else, not to where it's needed, which is paving. You know, without knowing, just what you explained earlier, that, previous administration basically just stopped funding you. And I don't know, I can't believe, why, to me, they would have stopped funding street paving, there's money in the budget, there should be money in the budget allocated to it. It's just not going to it, and going to the taxpayers, and saying we need more money, until I see a change. I was felt comfortable there's a change there of the way you're being budgeted for your needs are, which basically sounds like it's about $1+ million a year, just for one area, or $3 million a year, rather, for that matter, whatever you want to look at it. I don't feel comfortable going to the taxpayers and saying, recommend
The
another.
taxpayers also think that the state should come forward and the federal should be giving us funding, because these trucks all over our industrial parks don't only serve Laredo, they serve the whole United States. But not till we go and ask for those type of fundings in Washington and Austin, maybe we'll be able to get some of that. But in the meantime, we got to continue to be aggressive and, again, keep up with the growth and keep up with our streets.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Yes, Commissioner Narvaez.
I have a question, maybe Mr. Chavez can answer us. I know that this referendum is gonna go to the voters in May, and even if the $30 million would pass through, how soon will the bonds will be sold, and how soon will the city get those monies? Again, we're talking about May, maybe June or July, when those bonds get sold, or this money is gonna become available in 2025 or until 2026. So if the whole year goes by, these estimates or forecasts were based on a 5% inflation. Now, if the oil should drop their costs, as Trump's making claims, they're gonna be drilling and drilling and drilling. Remember, oil is what mandates all the asphalt, and the cost of oil will tell what the cost of streets will cost us in 2026 if we don't do anything in 2025.
Last part was at $35 a ton. At 80.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Mr. Chavez,
No,
Mr.
sir.
Orfila, anybody?
No.
So there's a motion and there's a second
For what?
to
Can
approve.
you repeat the motion? Can you repeat the motion? Can you repeat the motion?
Yeah, Mr. Chavez, can you repeat it? I can, I don't want to
There was
misspeak.
there was no motion.
No.
The motion was for discussion only.
Motion to approve or disapprove.
Yeah, right, that was a motion on the table. It was for discussion purposes.
Yes.
I believe Mr. Dominguez made the motion.
Made second.
Does anybody want to make another motion?
But what was the first motion? I know the motion was for discussion only, but not to take action.
Yeah, the motion, again, and it was made by Mr. Dominguez, was to proceed with the 30 millions, and I believe you
I see.
seconded.
No, I didn't second it.
Okay, and that was a second for discussion purposes.
Okay.
So there is a motion to approve the $30 million requested. Is that the motion?
Yes, sir, that's what I understand from the motion from Mr. Arturo Dominguez.
Commissioner, is this your motion? The motion is to approve $30 million? Commissioner Dominguez?
He's muted. You're muted, Mr. Dominguez. Commissioner?
If anybody wants to amend it, you can amend it.
Let me call him.
No, he's there.
So,
I call for the question.
okay, so there's a motion on the floor to approve the $30 million for street paving and 2025's bond referendum with the second. All in favor? And can I have, because we're all in different locations, obviously, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Chairman Roque Vela,
No.
Secretary Arturo Dominguez,
No.
Vice Chair Juan Narvaez,
No?
Gerald Strebel,
No.
Gerardo Jerry Maldonado.
No.
Motion does not pass, Mr.
So
Chairman.
motion fails. Mr. Chavez, can you remind me and us when the next the large bond committee meeting is? I believe it's the 12th.
I understand the 13th. Let me look at the date. The 12th, I won't say it's the 13th because the 12th is a Sunday.
Okay, well, whenever it is, can you remind us all with plenty of time, as a matter of fact, by the end of the week? And then remind us again after the new year, please, when that meeting is, so that we can, and I understand we all have our different issues going on, especially once the new year starts. We all want to hit the ground running, but as I've said, very important, and the tone in that room is much different than the tone in this room. And it's important that when I carry this back, and I am very willingly going to carry this back, I need others to be able to combat that tone, because this is getting out of hand. We all understand there are issues that our city needs, and infrastructure is being one of them. But you know, we're all in the same mind that we're not just going to throw money at this. And staff, staff, certain staff members need help too, so that hopefully the rest of staff and city council understands what needs to change. $630 million to put on a bond referendum is insane to be considering that. And that's where we're at right now. So please, each one of you, make the time to go to that committee so that we can change the tone in that room.
We will, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, and from our end, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, from staff, we'll send you reminders with ample time beginning later this week, just to let you know what that meeting is looking like, so that you can prepare and be ready whenever that comes.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez, Mr. Orfila. I know we're all getting ready for Christmas right now. Is there anything else that anybody would like to discuss? Statements, comments?
No, just wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Very, very Merry Christmas to everybody. Can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.